Well, this is something later on in the book you run into over Israel, where I think the founder of Helsinki Watch, Robert Bernstein, is that correct?
That's
Who
correct.
was the publisher at Random House, mounted a pretty, even vicious campaign against you personally because of your insistence that you had to report on the kinds of long history of atrocities and abuses that Israel has carried out against the Palestinians.
Yes, no, I mean, Robert Bernstein was one of the founders. He was the original chair. He founded along with R.E. Nair and others. But he wasn't comfortable applying the principles that we applied universally. He wasn't comfortable applying them to Israel. And he came up with one excuse after another. In the Middle East, shouldn't we focus only on women's rights? Or in the Middle East, shouldn't we exempt countries that are democracies, even though Israel's obviously only democracy within the 1967 borders, not in the occupied territories? But it was basically, he just wasn't willing to accept that that Israel should face the same scrutiny as everybody else. And he ended up writing an op-ed in the New York Times, which I think they published because it was just, so unusual for somebody to attack their own organization. But it just shows the importance of weathering the storm, being principled, being factual, and that blew over. People saw that he was trying to introduce an Israel exception to the enforcement of human rights law. We see that today in the Trump administration. We see it in the German government. I don't believe in that, and I fortunately the supporters of Human Rights Watch also wanted a consistent, principled approach to the defense of human rights. But there are many people who will do anything to try to exempt Israel from scrutiny. All the more so today when they're committing so many atrocities.
Well, the tragedy is that you had your reports, Amnesty International, the famous 400-page Goldstone report, but Israel was all these war crimes and atrocities were well documented, but Israel was never held to account, and that sent a message to Israel that you can do anything you want, which of course is what has happened. And I think for those of us who spent 7 years covering the Middle East, the tragedy is that and Human Rights Watch did a good job of this, B'Tselem, other groups, Al Haq, it was documented, but the international community kept giving Israel a pass, a pass, a pass.
Well, and these days, the number of governments that are giving Israel a pass is diminishing. But in a sense, the only government that matters is the U.S. government. And even Biden, while he was saying the right thing, he was saying, don't starve Palestinian civilians, don't bomb Palestinian civilians. He basically still sent the military aid and the arms, with the single exception of the huge 2,000-pound bombs that were decimating neighborhoods. He suspended those. The one place where there has been accountability is that now the International Criminal Court has filed war crimes charges against both the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and the former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. And so, that's an important statement that stresses the criminality of one important part of what they've done, the starvation strategy. It has not yet addressed the bombing, but I suspect that will come. The sad thing is that Trump has responded by imposing sanctions on in the ICC prosecutor. That is,
Yeah.
Trump has frozen his bank accounts, prohibited him from traveling to the U.S. And this is, blatant obstruction of justice. Trump himself could be charged with a crime for this interference with an independent judicial institution. But it shows the impunity that still in Washington is the dominant view of how Israel should be treated.